Hello guys, as always it's Taz101 Saga. This is quite a landmark video. First gun review I've done for well over a year. Let's get started. For those of you who didn't know, I am actually an airsofter. I took a bit of a temporary retirement because, well, I just needed money for a million other things, but I've got back into it recently, and this is the first gun I picked up as part of my new additions. This is the AGM MP40. I'm just going to say off the bat, this is not an out-of-the-box gun. It's got quite a few upgrades both internally and especially externally. That's completely different from what you get out of the box. I am going to add my own input. I'm not just going to tell you a bunch of technical specs because I've used this in a few games now, so I'll tell you what I think of it. Let me tell you about how this gun came when I first opened it up in terms of the gearbox. I opened it up the next day. The gearbox is absolutely filled with nasty thick lithium grease when you get it, as with most Chinese factory guns. That's just how they come, and most airsoft guns in general. You definitely want to take these things down when you get them, clean them up, re-shim them. I had to do that. The shimming on mine was really bad. Once you've done that, there are a couple of things you should probably upgrade at least. First thing I'd say is probably the tappet plate. The stock tappet plate is okay, but the plastic's it bends very easily. It's quite flimsy. There are upgrades you can get, and that's a myth about this gun. I've seen a few people say on other reviews that it's hard to upgrade because the compatibility is shite. I really don't know what they're talking about because I've stuck loads of V3 parts, which are generally used for things like AKs, in this gun. So I don't know what they're going on about with that. The other thing you should throw out once you take it apart is the bushings. They are plastic, and they're not even good plastic, they are just plastic. The spring guide is also plastic. It's crap. Get rid of the bushings, get rid of the spring guide, get metal ones. I have double oil channel bushings in this, which I quite like, so I got those. And yes, they do fit. And make sure you get yourself some shims, because you definitely want to re-shim this gun. Performance-wise, what do I think of this? Well, I love it, personally. It's great. I mean, it depends what you're really looking for. It doesn't have lots of range. At the end of the day, it is a submachine gun. A submachine gun is a close quarters weapon. In reality, you're not even going to be engaging stuff that far with it. Average combat distance for these things in World War II, 50 metres, give or take a few. If you use it how it was intended, it's definitely a very good gun. The hop-up on it, I haven't had any real issues with it. It's actually been fine. It can be improved quite a lot, depending on what BBs you use. If you put 2.5s through this thing, it's a lot more accurate than 0.2s. Now that's kind of the standard case with BBs anyway. If you have slightly heavier BBs, it's more precise. But on this gun, it actually makes quite a lot more difference than other AGs I've used. At least mine, it tends to work very well with 2.5s rather than just 2s. I haven't put a tight bore barrel in it or anything because there's really no point. You know, you're using it at close ranges, so it's not really necessary. The motor in this thing, the stock motor, in my opinion, it's not bad. It's alright. The teeth on the pinion feel pretty solid. I'll probably upgrade it at some point anyway when it gets knackered. Depends what kind of spring you're pulling with it really. I actually have downgraded this one myself. I dropped it down to 300 FPS. Well, it was shooting 350 and I thought, well, if it shoots slightly over I might get in trouble because the sight limit's 350. It was going slightly over when I had it chrono, so I thought I'll just downgrade it by quite a long shot to be safe. A lot of people use them out of the box. Not everyone upgrades guns, of course. You know, they just get them out and use them. Personally, though, I would actually change at least the bushings, the spring guide, re-lube it, re-shim it. So if you want a better gun out of the box without spending loads of money upgrading it, at least do those things. Bushings don't cost a lot, neither does a spring guide. It's worth it. Hey guys, thought I'd just make this little segment before the rest, before I assemble the rest of the gun, so I can show what sort of upgrades I put in it. The gears are Jingong. I don't know if that's normal for AGM to have those in, but they came. I replaced the piston head, which I don't have out. Sorry, piston head, I'm on about cylinder head. Right here, this is the stock one, and the blue one's the replacement. This is the piston replacement. I got an SHS piston, I think it's a 15 tooth. I've already done some AOE work on that. Use a stock cylinder because there's nothing wrong with it really, it's fine. Right, the bushings on this. These are Garda double oil channel bushings. You definitely want to replace the bushings and the spring guides. They're the two most weakest points of the gun and when you first get it. This is the stock spring guide. Plastic and it's already bent, so yeah, that's crap. Throw that. Don't ever use it. This is the stock tappet plate. Already broke and chipped when it came. That's crap. Throw that. got a replacement for that, and that'll last a lot longer, and it's only about 15 quid. Pretty good. Try eBay for this stuff. You can get this stuff really cheap on eBay. It does use like a trigger bar contact to, you know, fire the gun, which is, you know, you don't want to bend that or something because it will go wrong. The motor is directly in line with the back of the gearbox rather than being in the pistol grip like most version 2 and version 3 guns are. One thing that is proprietary on this gun is the nozzle. I've heard that you can cut down an AUG nozzle to fit it. It doesn't have any O-rings in, so obviously it's going to lose a little bit of air, but nothing substantial. Angle of engagements, plenty of videos out there telling you what that is if you don't know how to do it. But I did that to mine because it's worth it. It's definitely worth the upgrade, so I went the extra length. The real length though I went to is the externals on this gun. Right, another thing people like to know about, how's the weight of this thing and how well is it distributed? Well, obviously the gearbox is in the back and you don't have anything heavy up front. There's a myth going around that it's pot metal. Well, if it was pot metal, or is, I'm pretty sure it's not. It's very, very good pot metal because it does not bend. It is not going to crack. This thing is solid. It weighs like a brick. A lot of the weight is concentrated pretty much in the middle. I often play with the stock folded, so it's a little bit heavier that way because if you have to hold it by the pistol grip with one hand, you can't sort of tuck the stock under your arm to sort of balance the weight of the gun. If you're a strong guy, it's not going to bother you. With the stock folded, you can easily just sort of manoeuvre it, despite the fact it's quite heavy. Right, now before we take a close-up look at the externals, there is a special guest that I must introduce and thank for all the brilliant assistance and work that we did on this gun. This gun is actually blued, which is the finish that the original MP40s were made in. Right, I've never introduced somebody to the channel before, but this is Victoria, aka Vlogtoria, aka my girlfriend.
Oh my god!
He does have one.
Yeah, believe it or not. If anybody doesn't know what bluing is, there's a lot of videos on YouTube that can teach you how to do it. We had Ballistol Clever, which is actually the bluing agent, some wire wheels, you want a nice degreaser, you want lots of sponges, water, so it's quite a big process to get it done. We were actually going to try and film the process of us doing that for you guys, although there's just no space in there for camera equipment, to be honest. I only have a little shed. Let's give a close-up of the externals now, shall we? As I said, externally this thing is solid. When it comes out of the box, it's got this black paint. Real guns are never painted. They've always got some kind of chemical process to put the finish on there. That's just how it is, so I wanted to go the extra mile with it. There's two different handguard types you can get for this. You can either get the this part here, and these grips, which are representing the original Bakelite material. These ones are brown. You can get them in black. Most of the ones you see are black. I prefer the brown one because that's what most of them actually look like. You've got the cock and handle here, which does move. These don't spring back because this is meant to be an open bolt gun, so it doesn't return. The practical element of this, right here is the ejection port. When you retract the cock and handle, it exposes the hop up, which is it's like an AK type. It just slides backwards and forwards, and just close that back up. The sights, rear sight, it's pretty much the same as the real sight, to be honest. You have a 100 meter engagement sight, and it's quite stiff. Then you have a 200 meter engagement sight. So what's actually different about this gun compared to the stock one? Well, I went the extra mile of putting the real markings on. Not every single character came out perfect because normally these would be stamped before the metal was folded. It's a lot harder to do it on a curved piece of metal, obviously. And we put some numbers on other parts, i.e. the other side of the magazine release right there, and the cock and handle. And there are some smaller ones on the underside. It's going to be upside down to you, but you know, there's markings there as well. Right, stock on this thing. Same as an AK stock really, which is actually, the Russians actually copied it from this gun, more or less. That just folds out like that. They are a little bit wobbly. If you really want, you could take the mechanism down in the butt here and actually, you know, change the tolerance of that. I'll probably do that at some point. To get it back under, you just fold it, press the button. It clicks up in there nicely. Just give it a shove. Another thing I actually did on mine is, I forgot to mention this when covering the upgrades I did. I removed the Fire selector. There's normally a fire selector there, which is a bit like an AR selector. You just flick it into the up position and then you get semi-auto. You will have to take the selector plate and the little part inside which puts friction on the gear to actually slow it down for semi-auto. You will have to remove those bits from inside the gearbox. If you just take this off by itself, the gun will just fire in semi. You won't have auto, so you have to take those additional parts out. But once you've done that, you can essentially convert it to full auto only. The sling that actually comes in the box is another thing that's crappy, just like those internal bits. You want to throw that as well. So you're better off getting, this is a reproduction MP40 sling, which we darkened with leather dye, so it looks a bit more correct. You could change the paint on that if you really wanted, if you wanted it to look more realistic. If you are a bit of a nutter and for some reason you want to put a modern suppressor on this thing, you can actually just unscrew the muzzle nut there. Suppressors for these in World War II were actually a very rare experimental thing, but if you really want to stick one on, there's 14mm clockwise threads there. This front sight hood does remove, and all these pieces can be removed by punching these pins out wherever they're located, and you can slide all this off. In terms of disassembling this gun, I'll do a separate video on that next time I strip it down for maintenance. It's pretty easy to do. You only have to pop out a few screws here and there, a couple of screws there, the barrel comes out, a couple of screws in there, the magazine housing innard comes out. In terms of actually taking the gun down, magazine release is easy, you know, change magazine. The sling does kind of get in the way if you're trying to take the gun down, but I can't be bothered to take it off. You have this little knob here, you basically pull that, you just turn it enough that it doesn't do that. Once you've done that, you can essentially just pull the gun into two halves. That's basically what you end up with. You then got, you know, you can see the gearbox from there and the motor. Right, installing the battery then. It's a 1600 milliamp small type Tamiya connector, 8.4. It does come with one in the box, but it's a 1100 milliamp, pretty crappy one, so yeah, you can use it, but you might as well get a better battery. I put black tape on mine just so it doesn't sort of show up and it's not all colourful, sticking out the side of the gun and everything. Just fold those down in there, and then you basically just do the opposite of the this assembly. The thing with this is the wires do show up a little bit, and so does the battery. The side of the gearbox, which is actually silver, shows up like a sore thumb. I'm very fussy, so I went and put you know, black electrical tape over it and over the battery so it doesn't show up so much. This part here is normally not cut out, it actually stops there, which isn't very correct. There was a reinforcing plate under this, I dremeled that out. And normally this cut for the cocking handle actually goes all the way to the back of the receiver, so on the real one you can just pull the action out. The real MP40 safety is in the cocking handle, but since the Airsoft one is a dummy, it doesn't function. They have added a safety. It's more of just a battery cut-off, really. I mean, if you move it to the back, it's not going to work when you pull the trigger. I personally don't really use it. It's not the kind of thing that you can continuously switch on and off in a fight, in a skirmish, but it's there if you want it. Magazines. I personally have 6 magazines because that's how many were carried, and these are the pouches. Definitely worth picking these up with a German loadout if you really want to fill the part. So, looking at the mags there, I did the same process to these, well, we did the same process to these as we did to the MP40 itself. These are all blued, normally these are just painted black. Whatever material the floor plate's made of, the bluing didn't take well to it, so they've stayed silver, but I don't really care. The mags itself, they're stated as holding 55 rounds. They are full steel. I personally only load them to about 48 rounds, just so, you know, crush the spring in there. 6 of these is fine. I've found that that's more than adequate. Because they only hold 50 rounds, and obviously this is a full auto gun, they are going to go pretty quick, so you definitely need at least 3 or 4 perhaps, depending on how much you shoot. But yeah, they're good magazines, they work absolutely fine. I've had no problems with them. They sit in real magazine pouches very nicely. The mags are very good, very strong construction, definitely not going to break on you. Right guys, that wraps up this review. Thanks for watching. If you've got any questions about anything I discussed in this video, feel free to drop them in the comments. And for anyone who's a skirmisher, especially if you play at Ground Zero Woodland, aka the site I play at, drop us a message as well. And for any of you, see you on the field. it's fairly heavy. It's got a bit of heft to it. It is an all-metal gun. We'll get to that in a minute. And the phone's ringing. You son of a bitch. Always happens every video.